Hi, my name is EJ Massa. The most tender part of the pig is the tenderloin, and that's because that muscle doesn't do much work. Hey, I wonder if that means my whole body is a tenderloin. I bet it'd be pretty delicious. Beef tenderloin is awesome, but I consider pork to be the poor man's version, and if seasoned and prepared correctly, it can taste just as awesome. It's also fairly toned down compared to other cuts of meat, so like Lance Armstrong before the Tour de France, I'm gonna juice it up with some injections. The pork injection I'm using comes courtesy of Meathead Goldwyn's book. I'm only going to do a half recipe, so we'll need a half cup of apple juice, 1.5 cups of water, 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar, a half tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, a half tablespoon of sugar, and 1 tablespoon of kosher salt. Make sure to pour all your ingredients in slow motion with classical music playing. We'll seal up the container and shake that in slow motion. 120 frames per second conform to a 24 frame per second timeline. Yes, I need to do that to make the pork extra tasty. I have a couple of pork tenderloins from Costco, which is roughly 2.5 pounds. I think I'm only going to use 30 milliliters of injection for the 2 of them. Filling up the syringe makes me feel a lot like Dexter. I feel just like a television serial killer. I'm not actually a television serial killer. We'll inject a couple milliliters every 2 inches, and you can see the tenderloin swell up a tiny bit. Don't go overboard and make crazy large pockets of liquid. A little injection goes a long way with these slender tenderloins. I'm feeling super lazy, so I'm going to season these with off-the-shelf rubs like Killer Hog's AP rub. Then I'm going to go ham with old standard Montreal steak seasoning. I think the coarseness of this will create a nice outer crust. This combo would also work great with beef tenderloin. With these leaner cuts, I like a spicier, zestier seasoning, unlike the sweet ones I use for ribs or pork belly. That's just my preference. Do what you like. Fly. I'll wrap these in plastic because I have a couple hours to kill before dinner. And in the meantime, I'll make a simple applesauce. And nothing goes better with pork than homemade applesauce. I'm using a variation of Alton Brown's 10-minute microwave recipe. I like everything about this recipe. It takes 10 minutes. It involves booze. You just put everything in the microwave. It's so easy. For my variation, we'll use 3 Honeycrisp apples, which we'll need to peel and chop. Don't have the money for an apple peeler? Or an apple core? Have you ever tried editing jokes? Just line up your apples on the cutting board and do this. See? Editing jokes are an effective way and an economic way to cut anything. We'll put those apple slices in a Pyrex container with half cup of apple juice, 1 shot of whiskey. Make sure to drink a shot for yourself and tell yourself it's not indicative of a larger problem. Give a nice squeeze of honey, approximately 1.5 tablespoons. I just squirted a little bit. A couple dashes of cinnamon. Finally, 1 tablespoon of butter. Cover it up and leave a corner open, and put it in the microwave for 10 minutes. This is what the whole thing looks like in the microwave. I'm glad I got this B-roll to show you. Take it out and open it up and steam up your camera lens. Smash it up with a potato smasher, and we'll let it sit before putting it in the fridge for a couple hours. Thicken it up good. I like my applesauce thick. But if you prefer thin applesauce, you can just use an immersion blender, stick blender thing, and make it all thinned up. But I like mine thick. Today I'll be cooking the tenderloin on the pit barrel cooker. So I have a chunk of oak nestled in there, and I'll pour a tiny chimney of charcoal on top. Let that come up to temperature for 10 to 15 minutes, and I'll place hooks in the tenderloin at the thickest parts. We'll then hang the meat over the coals and seal it up. Hanging meat on hooks is just very satisfying. And that's a completely normal thing for a human to feel. I'll let those guys bathe in the beautiful iridescent smoke for 30 minutes, and I'll check their internal temperature, and they weren't quite done. Mine took about 1 hour and 20 minutes, and that was close enough. The government recommends 145 degrees for internal temp of pork, but I don't like listening to the government on most things. So I took them out of the pit and, they sure do look good. Ooh, absolutely pink with smoke, and you see a nice prominent smoke ring. But how does it taste? Wow. Wow. Oh my God. This is probably the best thing I've ever cooked on this show. It's perfect. Smoky, zesty, juicy, and tender. I'm so glad I filmed it because now I know the exact steps to do it next time I make it. I think the injection went a long way to make sure it was juicy. The seasoning was perfect. The smokiness of the pit barrel cooker hanging it over the coals. Oh, it can't be beat. I'm pretty shocked by the results. I feel like a genius. I am a genius. A barbecue genius. Using recipes that other geniuses came up with. Because that's what geniuses do. They steal from other geniuses. So, I'm going to leave you with that little nugget. Until next time, bye.